Well, can we rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Ms. Mason.
Mrs. Fryrick? Here. Mr. Posnell?
Here.
Mr. Robinson?
Here.
Mr. Sanders? Mr. Scalette?
Here.
Mrs. Schrader?
Here.
Mr. Sears?
Here.
Mr. Toman?
Here.
Mr. Watts?
Here. Thank you. This is your first opportunity for public comment. All comments and questions will be addressed to the president. Board and staff members will not normally respond. We limit our comments to 5 minutes or less. And at this point, if anybody has any comments that you would like to bring forward, please state your name and address. Going once, going twice. Okay, thank you. You have before you the minutes of the regular monthly meeting of September 17th and the Planning Committee meeting of October 1st. Are there any corrections? Then I would move that they be submitted as presented.
So moved.
Short roll call vote? We don't even need one, okay. Well, good. Mr. Sears?
As usual, we have a consent agenda for the Treasury items. Would any board member like any of these items considered separately, or are there any questions on any of the items? If not, Chair moves approval of the below-mentioned items.
Can I have a second?
Second.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you. The board met prior to this meeting in executive session as permitted by Section 707 of the Sunshine Act for the purpose of discussing matters of personnel. No official action was taken. And now we get to the fun stuff. Tonight we get to recognize National Merit Scholarship Program students. And I'll start with congratulations to the commended students. Phoebe Kaplan, and she's the daughter of Stephen Kaplan and Dr. Fana Kaplan. Come on up. Lily Cook is the daughter of Mr. James and Mrs. Melissa Cook. I think I'm missing one. Nathan Gudekunst? Did it say that right? Nathaniel. Okay, Nathaniel, okay. Son of Mr. Mark and Mrs. Elizabeth Gudekunst. I'm missing one. Brandon Duncan?
Back here.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Oh, you got two.
We're off to a roaring start. Brandon Duncan, son of Mrs. Louise Duncan. You almost lost out. Zoe Hornberger, and that's the daughter of Mr. Rob Hornberger and Ms. Melissa Horn. And I will announce Carolyn Liu, who is unable to attend tonight, who is the daughter of Dr. Ambrose Liu and Dr. Tunyu Vu. Okay. Olivia Penzola, did I get it? How about that? And that's the daughter of Mr. Andrew and Mrs. Kathy Penzola.
Yay!
Hey, nice job. And moving on to the semifinalists. Sam Garncars. Sam. And then he's the son of Mr. John and Mrs. Anne Marie Goncars. Let's give you, nope, I'm on the, okay. I think you got two.
Oh, dear.
See, I'm getting smarter about it, I can tell now. Zoe Pratt, daughter of Mr. Jamie and Mrs. Melanie Pratt. Brian Walsh. Bryn Walsh. What a night. Daughter of Mr. Ned Walsh and Mrs. Jennifer Hughes. And Caleb West. That's the son of Mr. Jonathan and Mrs. Heidi West. And let's bring... Let's bring Zoe Pratt up one more time. She is the National Hispanic Scholar as well. So I think what's really impressive about this is the number of scholars that we have and the hard work that went into it. You shared me how many around the state?
Yes, I don't remember the number around the state, but in York County, I'm told there's a grand total of 7 semifinalists, and 4 of them are here at York Suburban.
And now, you're all welcome to stay for the evening. These are exciting things that go on here, but I know some of you have homework, so we won't be insulted if you sneak out.
Have a photo op.
Yeah, take that outside. If you all gather out there, we'll take your pictures.
Have fun with the photo op.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thanks for coming.
So exciting. Really is. That's what they're thinking as they leave.
Only meeting.
Are you grading papers? It's great.
I get them in high school.
It's been a long time since we've had this many. We should look at these. Do you happen to know?
I don't.
Because, I mean, that really speaks highly of this junior
Right,
class.
because sometimes we receive the finalists, and then there's a list of the semifinalists, and then the recommendation another week, so it's split it in half, do you know what I'm saying?
No, I do understand that, but I just think this is, because there have been times when we've just had like 1 or 2 commended, and,
Oh, sure.
you know, so.
Sure, yeah. They used to be, a couple years ago, we had 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
For those of you that missed while we're waiting for our pictures to be taken, we had 7 National Merit commended students tonight and 4 semifinalists. So.
County, are you?
We were.
Sorry.
We've done 3 other items, John.
That's right, we
Sorry.
moved on.
You didn't fire me,
We're ready
did
to
you?
close.
In that process.
And the other things I have, the first one is we're coming up on the time of the year where we vote on our officers, and I've asked Mr. Robinson to form a committee to select candidates. And so if you're interested in either serving or participating on the committee, please see Mr. Robinson. And I have had conversations with the Chester County Intermediate Unit, and we're beginning discussions about our board retreat / planning session. So begin thinking about times in November, December, and maybe even January that you have some availability. We're probably looking at about 3 hours total, whether it's over 2 nights or one sitting. So if you start thinking about calendar times and availability, we'll zero in on that. And this will focus on board functionality in terms of what we do as a board, mission statement, purpose, and then we'll go into a planning session to help us plan for the coming years. So that'll be the process that will go on. And with that, I am done. Okay. Mr. Williams, Dr. Williams.
Thank you. Tonight's superintendent report. In addition to items related to normal district operations, we have been busy exploring some less common items. Tonight I will start with those less typical items. Facilities. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Apparently neither did I. District affiliated reports. We have booster clubs that help students out with various areas. Tonight we have the All Sports Booster Club. I'd like to give a plug for the All Sports Boosters in the way it's set up. I think it's a really good way to approach the booster organizations by having one overseeing group that oversees all the boosters so that we can avoid Title IX issues and all those kinds of things. So appreciate your efforts. And to give us an update is Josh Leak, president of that booster club.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for having me this evening. Appreciate it. And thank you also to both the board and the administration for your support of the Booster Club. I was just asked to provide you with a little bit of information. If I come up short, please ask me questions or let me know. If I can't answer it, I'll certainly find it for you. But I think probably the primary, or one of the biggest things that the Booster Club provides is each year 8 scholarships of $500 to student athletes. That number fluctuates depending on the availability of funds, but we've been able to do 8 of them for the last few years, and so far this year, it looks like that the membership revenue is on track to do that again. That's paid for completely by membership funds. We have currently 92 member families, and I say member families because there's a few different, you're probably aware there's a few different levels of participation, but 92 out of 375 different student athletes. So that's a number where, percentage at least, we're going to work to raise a little bit this year, but we still have pretty good participation. 23 different sports. The concessions, both the indoor and outdoor concessions, are managed by the Booster Club. The outdoor concessions we do in conjunction with the music boosters. We have a very good working relationship with them, even though their pool of volunteers is a lot smaller than what it used to be and probably continues to get smaller. We have 23 teams to choose from. They basically have one team to choose from, but they still do a heck of a job of getting us volunteers for each and every one of those events. So that's very much appreciated. And it's a big part of the revenue that we generate each year. We are in the process of planning the first annual golf tournament for June of this year. And while it's certainly going to be a fundraiser, just as importantly, it's a little bit of a... Originally, we hoped to do it around, make it part of the homecoming weekend. It's going to be a team building for, I can't think of a better way to put it than that, to get everybody together, everybody participating, having not only the sports, but the families participate, maybe even some recent graduates, or not so recent graduates in my case. So that's what I have. If you have any other questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for keeping me honest. One of these items that is in my report tonight is a facility study and enrollment projections. On tonight's agenda is a motion to engage Gilbert Architects to update the facility study from 2016. As part of that process, Sundance Associates will complete a demographic study as the scope of the development around Indian Rock Elementary has changed significantly since the last study. What had been planned as a large, over 55 development is now being developed differently. The revised studies will help us determine future facilities needs and provide us some potentially different options for how we structure the district. As a side process, I've been periodically working on my own enrollment projections. That way we'll have 3 different projections to consider: PDE's, Sundance's, and our own. I would suspect that Sundance's will be most accurate, but it certainly would be interesting if the 3 projections produce something similar. And we did background checking on Sundance with some school districts down toward Philly where they do a lot of work, and has been very pleased with what she has discovered about their work down there. And in fact, in one of the year's projections, I believe you told me that they were within 1 student in their projection. That's how accurate they were. They have some methodology out of Rutgers that apparently is very solid and very helpful and very accurate. So, based on the studies they did down there, the development over near Indian Rock would pale in comparison to some of the development that goes on down toward Westchester and those areas down there. So we're feeling very comfortable with this organization doing a demographic study for us. Next item is later start times for secondary. There's a growing body of research that says secondary students should have a later school start time, and the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and some other organizations recommend that the school day for teenagers should begin at 8:30, which is significantly different than what we do now. With that in mind, we have begun conversations with various stakeholders and have tried to develop several different options for consideration. The currently developed options are listed here below, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about each one, but the status quo is keeping things the way they are. Option 2 would be to completely flip the elementary and secondary times. Option 3 would be to push back start times for both levels so that secondary still comes in before elementary, but everything gets shifted back a little bit. Option 4, which was something that Reliance Transportation came up with. We asked them to be creative, and they did become creative, and they proposing a 3-tiered bus system that would have to be vetted well through the software company that runs the routing software. So we don't know that it's a viable option at this point in time. More research would be needed, but it's an option that we didn't think of, so we're glad that they thought of it. And option 5 would be some kind of collaboration with another district and maybe perhaps shifting how we do busing in the traditional way, where 2 neighboring districts have 2-tiered busing system. Why couldn't those 2 tiers be one tier be one district and the other tier be the other district? It might be a way to get all of the students in the same district on the same bell schedule, K to 12, which would be a wonderful thing from an organizational standpoint. So that's something else we're looking at too. Act 44 grants, you probably have seen a lot in the news media or email about Act 44 and grant money available for school safety. The Pennsylvania Department of Education and the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency are working together on a grant program to help school systems improve safety and security. The School Safety and Security Grant Program provides Pennsylvania schools with $60 million to be dispersed during this school year. Funds can be used for a wide variety of items, anything from equipment to police officers. Each school is guaranteed, more or less, $25,000 grant, and that's called the meritorious section of the grant. And this application calls for $25,000 to enhance security at York Suburban High School by installing a new video surveillance system. The system will consist of a digital video server with the capacity to store over 14 days of high-resolution video. New high-resolution cameras will not only provide surveillance coverage to the areas previously uncovered, but will enhance detail to improve the identification of people and objects. And the competitive part of the grant, Tawn and Corrine and Vince Henry have worked very hard to come up with the data that they need to apply for this grant, and they've applied for a $1.1 million grant to improve safety and security district-wide. The funds would be used to complete a safety and security assessment, to support the hiring of 2 police officers, to improve video surveillance through the purchase and installation of digital video storage servers and high-resolution cameras, and to enhance classroom security at 3 buildings by replacing the classroom doors with doors that contain security glass, electric lock sets, and card access system. I think that alone was going to be about $325,000 or something like that, if I recall correctly, just for the doors.
Right, for one school.
Yeah, East York, right? So, it's not cheap. So, if we're awarded this grant, most of the things in the $1.1 million request are one-time costs. But not everything is. Police officers certainly would not be. So we'd have to figure out how we would manage that issue going forward. But the bulk of the things that are in there are for one-time costs, relatively one-time costs, like card access system and doors and that kind of equipment. And I want to thank Tawn and Vince and Corrine for working so hard on that and getting that in. The deadline was the 12th, and they met it with no problem at all. They were a little frazzled, but they met it. And
When do you hear?
you know, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't either.
But it's for this school year,
It's for this school year.
so it's quick turnaround.
I believe the first part, the 25,000, I believe we know that by the December 1st.
That wouldn't be a surprise. Yeah.
And the competitive, I think, is sometime in the spring, because they're giving us 2 years to spend that.
So we don't have to spend it in this fiscal year,
Correct.
which would be unfair if they required that, if they're waiting so long to award it. So, all right, and the last thing in my report is the student enrollment report. The attachment is there with the various student enrollment report. What's interesting about the October numbers is that this most closely reflect what the state issues as our official numbers, enrollment numbers for this school year. They use the October 1 PIM submission to do official enrollment numbers for the year. So this is about as close as we're going to get to the actual numbers that PDE will determine for this school year.
Do you know, when the enrollment study that Sundance and PDE are doing, when that might happen?
They need like 2 months, I think, for the enrollment study.
Okay.
They might be able to give me some idea before the end of the week what their time frame would be.
I just was curious.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yes, ma'am.
I noticed on the charter school enrollment figures, there's some substantial change moving around, I guess, of students, and why exactly, or you compare it with the figures that we had as of 9/1, and you know, insights into that, or?
I do not. What was the number from 9/1?
9/1 total was 109, it's the same 109, but the numbers have shifted from, particularly in the cyber schools in the center section, there's some differences. I was just kind of curious.
It's more than double?
No, it's the same total number.
Same total number, I'm just looking.
But
at
the-
There's some reason why there's a shifting around, do we have any?
Typically, the cyber charters, kids come in and out of those all the time. That's not unusual.
Move from one to the next?
Yeah,
Charter school?
yeah. They're unhappy with one, or one of them makes them attend, and then there's all kinds of factors. But the brick and mortar ones, I believe, are fairly consistent, if I recall correctly, from the prior month, I mean.
Well, if you, let me take that back. I remember, I was looking at the wrong page. As of 9/1, we had 95 total students in some form of charter schools. Now we have 109, so our number has gone up. And some of it's at the York Regional Charter School. Do we have any reason for that, or just that's because what they decided to do, or do we talk to them when they're leaving or going, or?
They're under no obligation to share with us, you know, and some will, some won't, but I don't have any anecdotal information as to why it's gone up. I I wouldn't be surprised if their new facilities has something to do with what's going on. The facility is very nice. I don't know if you've seen it,
Yeah.
but it's awfully nice.
Well, they only have 8th grade there this year.
I know, but anticipation of going forward.
Of everybody moving forward.
Yeah, yeah. That's, yeah. So, yep. Okay. And also tonight we have with us representing we'll start with elementary tonight, Dr. Furman.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
I shared some pictures with Wendy to project for you of two different things that I thought it's tough to figure out what to brag about tonight. So if you look at the picture on the left, one of the initiatives that we had this year is, so for the first day of school, I always introduce the entire staff to all of the students. And this year, the staff introduced themselves with the theme of I'm important because, and then they became role models for our students. And so when you visit East York, if you walk the halls, you'll see that we have pictures hanging of each one of our students, and on a whiteboard, they wrote their own statement, I'm important because. And so just to drive that message home with them that they matter, they are important, and then with their picture in the hallway throughout the school year, we'll be displaying different work that they're proud of. Not just finished products, but sometimes something that they're struggling with, but that they're still proud of, that they're putting forth that effort that they just want to, that they're just proud of, and they want to display. So that was one of the things, an initiative we had this year, so hopefully when you visit, you'll have a chance to check that out. The other thing is I wanted to update you on our Fluency volunteers. We had sent out a number of pleas over the summer and the opening of the school year. The staff and I, in looking through our data, we believe that there is a very strong connection, and it's not just looking at our data. Our data supports what the research is saying, that students need a strong foundation in fluency in order to get to the higher level thinking and comprehension that we're asking them to do with the Common Core, the PSSAs, and all of those different things. And when I say fluency, I don't just mean being able to read with expression and accuracy and rate. I'm also talking about their basic math facts, because when they get to these 3- and 4-step problems, once they decipher and interpret what's being asked of them, if they have to stop and pause to figure out what is 7 times 4, and if they're stumbling on that, they forget what's even being asked of them up here. And so with this initiative, what we've done is we've recruited volunteers from the community. I used my connections at Eastminster Presbyterian Church. We sent out email blasts to all of our families, encouraging grandparents, neighbors, anyone who would be interested to come get their board clearances and be board approved for volunteering. And then they come in to the school. Right now, we have over 20 volunteers coming in Monday through Friday. They'll come in anywhere from 40 minutes to the lady in the center is a retired kindergarten teacher, and she's in the building for 3.5 hours every Monday, just working on math facts and reading with different kids. Mrs. Stover and Mrs. McClure helped me train these people as far as how to not just practice the facts of the reading with the kids, but we're recording that data so the kids can chart their growth from session to session and see how their time and effort they're putting into it is getting results for them. And so it's another thing you'll see if you come and walk the halls. It's cluttered with tables everywhere and baskets and folders, but it's because of all of the goodness that's happening in those 2 pictures with them. Any questions about East York?
I'm glad you're involving the community. That's really cool.
It actually credits where it should go. It was last year during PSSA season when Mr. Sanders and sorry, your name just flew out of my mouth.
Joel.
Mr. Sears. I wanted to say Joel, but I was like, no, Mr. Sears. My apologies. When they were in, and we were just kind of talking about some of the different things, and just through the conversation, it kind of was born out of that in a number of different things.
Here's a toughie. Do you know if Greg's doing any of this?
That's a toughie. I'm not 100% sure.
Just make sure what's going on over there.
That's up to him.
You had some last-minute construction right as school was starting. All that's leveled out and you've survived and it's all good?
Yes. They're still in putting some finishing touches on some different things, but the crews that had to come back in to do those finishing touches were, they were very professional. They did not do anything to get in the way of teaching or learning. They were great working with our staff as far as, checking in when they could be in what areas and being diligent and conscientious of the teaching and learning, but also getting their jobs accomplished. So it was a good partnership with a number of the different companies that were in.
And it's ongoing? It's still not done?
It is mostly done, it's just every now and then something, they're still kind of finishing out the punch list.
Okay.
And
I think that's a
couple
yes.
sheets here and there.
Okay, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, I also want to compliment you on the bringing in the volunteers. I mean, I do think it does create extra administrative work to do that, but the tremendous benefit, I think, is terrific. To get the community more involved, to get them into the building. There's so many skills out in our community. And also insofar as parents can do it as well, to have them be more connected, is a great benefit to our district.
And not just the academic benefit to our students, but they have the opportunity to meet just sometimes it's the kid in their class, it's their mom or their dad, just to meet different community members who are role models of getting involved and of showing that there's a larger caring community. And there are a number of side conversations that happen. We're definitely about learning and practice, but there's also that, oh my goodness, I'm so proud of you. Look at how far you've come since the last time I was in those pieces. And who could use a little extra love and support, right? Thank you.
Thank you. And Mrs. Fasek from the middle school.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? It's been a busy place at the middle school. The last time I was here, we were trying to get into the swing of things, and I think that we've eventually reached where Mr. Evans is back here, he can confirm that we're in a routine. The students are picking up the pace of academic learning, but we've had two major events in the past month since someone has been in here. One of those being the Trojan Takeover. If you've seen anything online or the pictures that are posted in our Picture of the Week, that goes out to parents every 2 weeks. Our students and the Student Council led a fundraising initiative called the Trojan Takeover. And it's our main fundraiser for the building for the year. The students participated in gaining sponsors to sponsor them in a day of where they kind of take over the school, and they go out for about an hour and 20 minutes and participate in old school games. No one wanted to sign up to be Red Rover, but they go out and they're participating and they're working as a team to go through 6 or 7 different stations that they did. Working with their sponsors, putting the emails out, learning about that communication, they were able to raise just shy of $15,000. Now, as they did that, there was $5,000 incentive. They were trying to fill the shield or fill the helmet of the Trojan, and they were able to come up with $5,000. Our first initiative will be this week. They are receiving an ice cream treat and a chance to, again, take over the school, and for 15 minutes they're going to watch some epic fails, kind of sit back and have a little bit of downtime from academic time. And then they've reached the $10,000 reward as well, where we're going to watch The Incredibles 2, and they're going to focus on how the school is incredible and how we are together as a team. The second thing that we had happen was Caught in the Middle Day. Been through the middle school, our Caught in the Middle Day is focusing on the students and where they are. They're not quite the young kids anymore, but they're not quite also the high school students that are figuring out where they want to be in life. So we're trying to promote with them different aspects of the future selves and figure out what is it that they want to do. So we introduce careers, we introduce different hobbies, we introduce self-improvement workshops. And throughout the morning, and speaking of community involvement, we have a lot of community members that come in to run these shops for us. Our teachers do as well, but many community members. And they focus on 6 different, I can never remember them all. So there's the creative side of me, the taste buds in me, which they made cupcakes, they were decorating them, they were beautiful. Making a better me, the future me, the active side of me, and the wild side of me. And before parents get concerned about what we were teaching them in the wild side of me. I was focusing on our nature and environment, not quite teaching them how to rebel at home or in the classroom. So the students participated in 3 different workshops in the morning to gain something that they may look forward to, an activity, an interest that they didn't know about before that sparked an interest with them. We're going to have a follow-up survey to see how we did at doing that. The afternoon, I think, was one of the best parts and the highlight of my year so far, is we had a man named Richard Gary come in and present to us about public and permanent. And it's about students when they're creating that online social media presence through things like Fortnite, things like Instagram, Twitter, how they need to make sure that they are doing things that promote how amazing that they are, not to do things that are going to take away from how amazing they are. And he showed them how a Snapchat isn't necessarily deleted, and how everywhere that we are, we can be in someone's social media, no matter what we're doing. And he showed them glasses that eventually people will put on that look like a pair of sunglasses, but they're recording video of you as you're walking down the street. So the students, I think, had an eye-opening experience about how to use social media effectively, what it's there for, what the purpose of it, and as well as what the pitfalls are. So we're looking to explore that with the students as well. Any questions?
Thank you. Ms. Mason?
Thank you. The administration recommends board approval of the resolution to amend the resolution authorizing the incurrence of non-electoral debt by the issuance of general obligation bonds in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $17 million for the purpose of financing various capital projects of the district to expire on October 23rd, 2020.
So moved.
Second. Question, discussion? Guess you can have a short roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The administration recommends board approval of the budget timeline for the 2019-20 budget.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Questions, discussion? Okay, you can do a short roll call.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The administration recommends board approval of the contract with author and speaker Jordan Sonnenblick to appear at the middle school on March 22nd, 2019, with a makeup date of March 29th, 2019, if needed. The contract amount of $2,200 will be paid from the general fund.
So moved.
Second.
Do you know what the topic is?
Dr. Krauser had talked about him being an author, so it was going to be spending the day with the students on writing. He's going to be presenting, but then also doing individual classwork.
Yes, this can be a short roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The administration recommends board approval to close the French Club account in the Student Activity Fund and move the remaining funds of $35.10 over to the National Honor Society account. The French Club no longer exists as the World Language Honors pool their funds under one umbrella to support collaborative fundraising and student activities.
So moved.
Second.
Short roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. Items E, F, and G, putting together, they are all professional service contracts. The first one is the feasibility study to be done by Gilbert Architects and Sundance to do the demographic study. The second and third have to do with contracts that were presented through the Facilities Committee. One has to do with the engineering services by New Tech Design at the middle school to do a water infiltration study, and the third one is the contract with Johnson Controls to place the security system at East York Elementary that was damaged during construction.
So moved. I have a question on that. How are we paying for these things? Where we get taking the money for the, facilities, review, update, and that, and the, new tech and Johnson Controls?
The items E and F will come out of the operating fund, and G will probably come out of capital projects, but that's yet to be determined because we have to go back to the contractor that was doing East York project at the time to see where that settles out.
Okay, you're saying operating fund,
General fund?
general fund. Is there a specific line item?
I will get the line
I
item.
was just curious where it's coming from, that's all. Thank you.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The administration recommends board approval of the bid for 4 starting platforms for the swimming pool from It's Water, Inc. for a total cost of $22,001. This purchase is through the CoStar's contract, will come out of the general fund, and we do know that TAC will be donating $7,000 towards this purchase.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Discussion?
22,000 does not include the 7,000.
Right, because we don't have that yet. The $22,000 is the total cost.
Where did that item come from? I don't recall us talking about that ever.
That came from that came to me between the planning meeting and this meeting. Mr. Marshall. It was part of the budget when we did our budget meetings with them last year. He had presented that as being a purchase.
Land purchase.
Correct.
Other? Okay.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. Last item, the administration recommends board approval of the letter of agreement with the Lincoln Intermediate Unit for Title IIA non-public programs and services for a sum of $6,453. This would be for services for the students attending St. Joseph's School of York.
So moved.
Second.
Questions?
What are some of the services?
I will defer to Dr. Ketterman on that.
For Title
2A.
2, wait, help me, that is, professional development. So it's for when they, basically when they're, I know that we've got a request for them sending, staff members to training.
And we're obligated.
Well, this is
Yeah.
services for the students attending St. Joseph. I'm just curious to know what those services are.
Well, it's,
Nursing and.
no,
No.
this is professional development. We're obligated to provide some of our federal monies to the non-pubs. And,
And that amount's predetermined
yeah,
by
there's a formula
the
for it.
program. It's not, we arbitrarily can say we're giving them X amount of dollars. And in this particular grant, it's Title II, which
Professional
is
development.
professional development. So they're getting professional development based on our students that attend there.
Okay, so the services aren't directly delivered
For
to
students.
Correct.
Correct.
That's,
It's based on the students that live in our district who attend there.
Oh, okay.
Indirectly, it's for the students, but
Right.
yes, professional development is for the staff.
Other questions? Okay, this can be a
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. Under informational, the donation from the Valley View PTO in the amount of $500 towards the Stephen Courtney event that took place back on August 20th. And any questions on the dining review report or the sales activity report? That concludes my report.
Ms. Geyer, oh,
Can I just interject, thanks to TAC? I mean, I think that's great for, community organization such as TAC. I mean, they're bearing the burden of virtually 30% of those starting blocks. So that's something they, don't have to do, but we appreciate it.
Overall, the homecoming festivities were successful and allowed for a very eventful but very fun few days throughout the community. October 6th was the annual Fall Festival at Indian Rock, which had tremendous success thanks to the great PTO, student volunteers, and attendees. Last week, students at Valley View were lucky enough to meet firefighters from York Area Fire and Rescue for their Fire Safety Assembly and Fire Prevention Week. The elementary students were also able to meet and interact with 2 visiting therapy dogs from K-Pets Connections. Starting tomorrow and for the remainder of the week, student athletes from the high school's fall sports teams will be visiting the elementary schools to serve lunch to the kids, which both the younger elementary students and the high schoolers always enjoy. The fall sports season is winding down for some teams while others are gearing up for their postseason. The boys cross-country team won the Division II championship again this year and on October 9th won their 100th league meet in a row. The girls tennis and golf team have multiple students who represented the programs in the YAIAA tournaments as well as some who qualified for districts. Girls soccer finished the regular season 12-4-2, qualifying them for the county tournament and districts. Girls volleyball is also poised to qualify for the county and district tournaments, currently sitting at 3rd place in districts and 8th in the state. The girls will be playing West York this Thursday, October 18th, with the hope of tying with them for the division title. Boys soccer and football are currently 1 spot out of qualifying for districts. Also, the Quiz Bowl team won their first match of the season against Hanover with a score of 1,095 to 440. Best of luck to the team still competing. Lastly, this coming Saturday, October 20th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., the high school will be hosting its 4th annual Color Clash, which is a 2-mile-long fun run, followed by a pie-eating contest and a shaving cream slip and slide for the community to enjoy. Proceeds will benefit 4 Diamonds and its fight to conquer childhood cancer. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Committee reports, you have the committee meeting schedule posted here. Mr. Robinson, Communications.
Thank you, Mr. Posnell. The activities and communications reports are provided. In its never-ending quest to provide better communications for the community at large, I'm pleased to say that the Spring Garden Township newsletter finally arrived. I'm sure to the edification of all who read it. The committee will be meeting this Thursday, October 18th. All are invited for a scintillating, action-packed meeting. That concludes my report.
Thank you.
It's a promise. It's always a promise.
Ms. Ferrari, Facilities.
Facilities Committee, you have before you the minutes of the September 5th meeting, and by way of information, 3 of the items that were discussed in Ms. Mason's report, facility study, water infiltration, and replacement of the Easter security system were also discussed at some length at our October meeting. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson, you're back up. Personnel.
Thank you, Mr. Posnell. As you can see on the agenda, the minutes of the August 7th meeting are provided. Item 2, recommended board approval of the updated job description and increase of $2,000 base salary, prorated for the remainder of the 2018-2019 school year, for the Coordinator of Transportation and Communications, effective October 16th, 2018. This change reflects the additional duties related to communications. Child accounting will remain with the duties of this position.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, discussion? This can be a short roll call vote.
Will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Item 3, consent agenda. You have before you the personnel report, which includes resignation, employment, leave of absence, substitute teacher list, reappointment of winter coaches and volunteers. Would any board member like any of these items considered separately, or are there any questions on any of these items? If not, the chair moves approval of the below-mentioned items.
Second. I need a second.
Questions?
I'm going to abstain from this. I'm listed as a volunteer.
All right. Then this can be a short roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
That concludes my report.
Lincoln Intermediate Unit, the Dawn's Early Light highlights are posted online here. And Ms. Frarick, do you have a...
The LIU Joint Operating Authority, I have no report, and for York Adams Academy, I'm pleased to report that we, as of today, we have 12 students filling the 12 seats that we have over there for the program. That concludes my report.
Adams Tax Bureau, Ms. Mason?
No report.
Great. York County School of Technology. Recognition of visitors. Your last opportunity for public comment. Hearing none, I think we're adjourned. Thank you very much.